And testing, testing. All right, it always takes a few seconds. So here we go. Hi, trouble. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to what we call Cast Iron Wednesday. This is a live video that I've been doing every Wednesday now for about 2 years. Well, almost every Wednesday, largely because, well, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy working with, I enjoy this cooking stuff and cooking live on YouTube. As I said, regardless of how good I am at it or not, I've found it to be a lot of fun. And as we say every week, a lot of these YouTube cooking channels, they've have something of a tradition going on that they call Cast Iron Wednesday, which is, of course, on Wednesday, do something in cast iron, which is exactly what we're doing here. You know, most of them do like a cooking video or a video talking about cast iron, showing off their cast iron collections, cleaning cast iron. You get the idea, because we've been doing it now, as I said, for a few years now. So, and as I said, I have really been enjoying doing these live videos here on Cast Iron Wednesday. And so here we are again in my new kitchen. I think I've talked about that part before. So I can only thank everybody, as always, for showing up. I mean, I really appreciate it. It's really you folks showing up here who make these live videos so much fun, because I appreciate everything. I appreciate your watching. I appreciate you commenting. And yes, Mystery Science Theater sarcastic type of comments are encouraged, because, as I said, that's really just part of the fun. And besides, it kind of helps me to loosen up as well. It seems I've been doing this for 2 years, and I always start out these things feeling tense and nervous, but I tend to loosen up over time. So but nonetheless, here we are in our kitchen, and I'm saying hi again to everybody, to William Hurd and Janet Bautista, Flash 1499, and Rhode Island Eats, and hello to everybody. And once again, I'm hoping, of course, that the video quality is doing okay, because here in my new home, I've had to do this on Wi-Fi instead of on a direct Ethernet connection. But if last week was any indication, then there really shouldn't be too much of a problem. So, hello, Papa Dan and everybody, and likewise to Pat Z and Roadside Assistance Guy and Debbie and Christine Borgatti and Pip Gorn. Yeah, a lot of regular folks showing up here, and again, I very much appreciate that. But I mean, of course, yeah, we are here for the cooking, and so that's why. Oh, yeah, that's right. For those about to walk, yes, I know, AC/DC reference, but that's also because, well, within the last few days or so, as you saw, had a chance to break in the Lodge cast iron wok, and I was very happy with how that turned out on this gas stove, and so much so that I wanted to show off this wok live. So that means now we're going to be doing a stir fry tonight, and it's nice, and stir fries, anyways, are so much fun to do because they're easy, they're fast, and of course very satisfying. Which means I better actually move the camera over a little bit so that you can actually see the cast iron. So here we go, and we'll start off that way. Got to watch this mic here, though. Let's get this mic over onto this side. 1 second. There we go. I think that'll do better. Okay, here again, once again, is my new stove, and there is the Lodge cast iron wok. In fact, I can lower this so we can get something of a close-up view here. And if we do this, oh, good, we're gonna have a view. In fact, now that we've started this, it's time to start heating this wok up. So that means, there we go. Off to a decent start. And here again we have the Lodge cast iron wok. This lid I got separately from an online shop called the Wok Shop, and I can't believe this lid here. I've had this now for going on 10 to 11 years, so I've got some stains on it, yes, but this lid has worked just fine on this wok, and so I see no reason not to keep using it. But yes, here it is, the large so-called Pro Logic cast iron wok, which it seems, as I've learned only recently, they have apparently discontinued in favor of a slightly newer design for their wok. I guess at this point, Lodge has pretty much given up on their so-called. Move this over a little bit on their so-called Pro Logic series, and this was they produced this in I don't know the 90s and 2000s and so on, using this sleek modern design where there were absolutely no sharp edges anywhere on any of their pans that they made in this series. Everything had a curved, a rounded corner to them, and so that meant, and they called that Pro Logic. Some of the pans in that series were pretty good, some were not so good. They came out, for instance, with a very wide, flat handled skillet, and I think it was even meant to be a chef skillet in their ProLogic series, which I don't think went over very well. I don't believe the design of that one was all too great. However, some of their other pans in that series were doing pretty good, especially the wok, which lasted all of this time up until only the last couple of years or so. Yeah, because the large cast iron wok, of course, is very different from the typical wok you get if you buy at an Asian market. Namely, this wok is much thicker and much heavier. I think I weighed this once, and it weighs something like maybe about 11 pounds, if I remember right. So yeah, no, that means that when we're stir frying in this particular wok, no, I cannot pick the wok up and toss the food around. In fact, that's one skill that sadly I am lacking in. In fact, that's one thing I really have to practice. One of these days, and especially now that I have a gas stove, I've got to get myself a lighter wok and learn the art of tossing the food in the wok. But until then, we still have this wok, which actually works just great on its own because it's heavy cast iron, and that means it can really hold heat, and that's the thing that I'm really looking forward to using on this, because on my electric stove, even, I did, it gave pretty good results. And that's one reason why I really felt that this was the type of wok to use if you have a thin American style electric stove. On the other hand, it seems that the gas flame underneath here is distributing the heat a little better. And so as a result, this means that the heat is actually heating up the sides of the wok as well as the sweet spot on the bottom. And so I feel that this is actually, at least a couple of times I've used this so far, we've actually got a better design here for doing a stir fry. And that's why I am very much looking forward to it. Now, again, I got this wok. In fact, this was, I've told this story about this wok before. This wok was the very first piece of cast iron that I actually purchased myself. It was, I believe, my third piece of cast iron. My first one, of course, was a 10-inch large skillet. I've talked about that was my redneck pan, and that's when I first used to fall in love with cast iron. My second piece of cast iron was an enameled grill pan that my parents gave me for Christmas that year, which I've since discarded because, quite frankly, I've found I had very, very little use for an enameled grill pan. But that's just me. Anyway, in January of 2011, as cast ironitis was beginning to really settle in on me, I found myself more and more with an urge to get this particular wok because I did have a thin wok and I liked doing stir fries in it, and so I wanted to do it in cast iron, and that's why I used a an Amazon gift card that I had received for Christmas of 2010, and with that, I got this cast iron wok, which has barely left my stove now for the past 11 years. Actually, 11 going on 12 years since it was in January of 2011. I usually use this wok at least once a week just because stir frying is so convenient. So, yeah, R. Hughes, I come here to forget my cast ironitis. Well, this may be the worst place in the world to come to do that. So, hello, Turner Fowler. Well, I'm hoping everything's going okay with you. And Also, let's see as well about some other comments here as this wok is busy heating up. I've got it on a pretty high heat, and I'm betting we're going to be reaching the smoking point not too long from now. So, see, sick, no hurt arm. Pawpaw Dan, no picture or sound. What? Just buffering? Am I still buffering? Okay, this was a little earlier. Pawpaw Dan said I was buffering. Okay, somebody else. Christine Bargatti says, good here. Happy cast iron Wednesday. What kind of stir fry tonight? Hello, Anne. Yeah, I'm doing a stir fry that I've done before. In fact, I've made for you at least once before. I call it simply my spinach hash stir fry, which is a combination of corned beef hash and spinach, along with some potatoes and mushrooms mixed in. Now, it is very different from your typical Asian stir fry, yes, but it's a recipe, one of the first recipes that I developed myself. So it's one that I'm actually pretty used to. Yesterday's, oh yeah, that was the fried rice yesterday. Okay, good here. Okay, good. So if people are getting the live feed here, that's good. Yeah. Yes, I was quite happy with how that fried rice turned out yesterday as well. Papa Dan couldn't get reception inside home, had to walk into field my yard to pick up the reception. Okay. All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Papa Dan. I might suggest, I mean, if you have a Wi-Fi router, maybe you should contact your cable company or look into a different one. And the rest have been over 10 years now and only cook in cast iron. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's what they call cast iron itis, all right. I have many PCs, but always looking for more. Oh, pieces, yes, but always looking for more. Yeah, yeah, the recipe in itself, too. Yeah, and I love cooking pork chops in my cast iron. Oh, so do I. Yeah, the recipe, I've got something of a story about it. I did tell that story some time ago, but it's been a while. As I mentioned, that particular recipe was one of the first ones that I ever developed. This was back in my earlier life. As I think I mentioned before, my life kind of changed pretty much around the year 2010, some of which, in fact, a fair amount of which of my old life I prefer not to talk about on YouTube because it's personal and people talk about that drama stuff all the time. So I would rather not get into that. But what I will say is that back up until 2010 or so, I said before that I couldn't felt that I could not cook to save my life. I mean, I could barely do anything, and yet one thing that I did actually do was come up with this one recipe that yeah, that we actually enjoyed. And quite frankly, the initial version of this was pretty disgusting. It started out based upon a ramen noodle and hamburger or ground beef stir fry that we would throw in about a ton of cheese and some mushrooms, and it kind of developed from there. So from there, but after a while, instead of using ground beef, I started using canned corned beef, the stuff that looks like dog food in a can. So I took the store label off. Really no reason, but yeah. And typically what I would do in those days would take, as I said, I would take the corned beef and mix it in with spinach and mushrooms. And then I would literally drown it in like at least a pound or more of cheddar cheese. It was probably a salt bomb. It looked disgusting. But it tasted pretty darn good. And we would eat this thing on at least on a fairly regular basis. Over time, however, as I actually learned to cook, I modified the recipe so much in that as much as I love cheese, no, I'm not going to drown this thing in cheddar. So we are going rather this is really more like a corned beef hash with some differences to it. So oh yeah, I can definitely start to feel the heat coming up already, which is good. I'm like a couple of inches or so from the pan from the top, and so this is doing pretty good, including the sides of the pan. Fortunately, as I said, once this thing begins to smoke, I think we're going to be ready, and that's not going to take very long. In fact, let me pull something out here. Here we go. Let's take a look at the old infrared thermometer and see what we have here. And good grief, where's that camera? We've already gone over 500 degrees. Boy, that didn't take long at all, did it? Yeah, I mean, we've got the bottom here, as you can see. So that means I'm actually more ready for stir frying than I thought. So here, there we go. That sure didn't take long to heat up. I think on the electric stove, it would have taken at least 15 minutes or half an hour or more. So that means we can get started. All right. And that means I also get to pull out one of my other favorite utensils here, which of course is this lovely wok shovel. This particular one here I discovered at Brimfield. Yes, another Brimfield discovery. One fall I found this one here for $5. And I have no idea if it is vintage or not. It looks vintage, I kind of admit that. But it has some words stamped on the bottom. It says Hong Kong and I think made and something like CKL, whatever that stands for. I have no idea how old this is. This thing will rust though if I'm not careful, which means this is probably carbon steel. So I very much have enjoyed this particular wok shovel, which they call a chon, and that's the other thing. Well, actually, instead of just talking, let's actually start doing something here, shall we? Namely, let's get our oil out. All right. And spread it about here. And once we do that, we'll be able to start with the first step of this little odyssey. There we go. So far, so good. I'll let the oil heat up for maybe another minute or so. But yeah, that's the other thing I've since learned. Actually, it wasn't too long after I started frying in a wok that I started using a wok shovel, and I fell in love with this. If you have a wok, folks, and you do not have a wok shovel, run, don't walk, yuck, 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 and get one. These things are fantastic. They've been designed, I mean, they're designed especially to be used with the shape of a wok here. And you can really feel the difference between this and, say, a regular spatula if you're going to stir fry in a wok. I mean, I was amazed the very first time I used one of these in a wok, and I never walked back. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll stop with the wok jokes now. But what I mean is that a wok shovel, I would say this is absolutely essential if you're going to be stir frying in a wok. What's more, these things are cheap. If you go to any Asian market, and even not in an Asian market, you can usually find a metal one, a metal wok shovel for anywhere from like $5 to $15, depending on where you're going. And a lot of times they even have them in wooden wok shovels as well. Because, and that's the thing. I know some people don't like using metal utensils in their cast iron, even though it's safe. They just don't like the sound of it. And so for that reason, they do have wooden wok shovels. And having said that, I do believe we are ready to get some frying on. First thing I'm pulling out are some sliced golden potatoes. And that's because potatoes, of course, take longer to fry. So that's why I'm starting with the potatoes. I haven't even added the aromatics yet, largely because I don't want them to burn in the oil. But once the potatoes start to change color and soften, then we're going to go on with our onions and garlic. Because, of course, you have to have onions and garlic in a stir fry. I think that's pretty much a law of nature. Anyway, yeah, this is what I mean, how much fun it is to stir fry in a wok. Quite frankly, since I've been cooking in cast iron, I've found that as far as stir fries are concerned, you can really do a great stir fry in a cast iron skillet. But I think a wok is simply better. It is really designed for this kind of cooking, and I highly, highly recommend giving one a try. There's nothing wrong with stir frying in a skillet. As I said, the skillet has, of course, has many other uses. Like, for instance, you can certainly make pancakes in a skillet much better than you could in a wok. And yet, as I said, once you use a wok, you will be able to tell the difference. These are it's just so much fun. For the record, I used golden potatoes here, or they might be white potatoes. Or even I think the bag may have had a mistake in a couple of both. But I did not use russet potatoes for this because, of course, when russet potatoes cook, they tend to turn to mash, which is good, but I don't want mash. I want these to have just a little bit of bite and still shape to them as well. So we're off to a decent start here. And yeah, Debbie, I'm so glad my internet is working this week. Yes, congratulations. I'm glad to see you here, Debbie. Likewise, Turner Fowler, I think he's using corn oil. Oh yes, I apologize. I used canola oil in this case. So yeah, I do love using corn oil because it is a high smoke point, and for that matter, so is canola oil. What I need to do is, since I've moved, I still have to restock a couple of essential items in my kitchen, such as peanut oil, which, as you know, is probably like the number one thing that they use in Asian stir fries. Although with peanut oil, of course, that can be expensive. And frankly, good old generic vegetable oil will work just fine for your stir fry as well. I do not actually recommend using olive oil for a stir fry. Olive oil has a lower smoke point and it can actually tend to burn for that reason. So, as such, a higher smoke point oil does good. It does better, which is why we see a lot of people talking about grapeseed oil, for instance, which I've barely used. I don't know, probably because I've been quite happy using things like canola and peanut and corn oil. Anyway, so all I'm really doing at this point is just simply frying these in the oil until the potatoes start to soften, which again is not going to take very long. So, and millions upon millions of cooks are probably onto something. Yes, indeed. As I mentioned, this is not an Asian stir fry. I love Asian dishes. I mean, the fried rice, for example, is only one of them. But even so, this particular kind of stir frying is probably going against the grain for any number of Asian cooks, especially because, as I said, I'm using a thick and heavy cast iron wok. So which is, of course, is the complete opposite of of a thin Asian wok. Not that I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, it just means it's a somewhat different kind of cooking. And I think it's very easy as well. In fact, right now I'm just doing it with one hand. In fact, this wok is heavy and sturdy enough that I don't even have to support it with my other hand. Oh, that's good. We're starting to get a little bit of browning on the bottom already. So this is not going to take much longer as it is. There we go. Let's do this. There we go. Just trying to distribute these potatoes so that they're all evenly or equally, I guess I should say, cooked. And I'm just trying to let it sit on the hot metal so that we can get some good browning on them. And furthermore, yes, our Hughes need a wok. Well, it's not that I'm trying to sell one. I'm not, but as I said, it's simply that much useful, and it is really that much fun. Surprised if your pan is over 500 that the oil didn't smoke. So am I, actually. Although I can see we're getting some steam at least coming out. Usually, I can get a pretty good smoke from this cast iron pan before I put the oil in. So I was as surprised as anyone to see that the temperature had already reached 500. Yes, avocado oil has very high smoke point. Yes, things like that are probably the best for stir frying. Where did you get the tiny Dutch oven back there? Oh, these. Yeah, look at this. This is a tiny one. I don't know, maybe a cup or two, in fact. There were two of them, and they were, quite frankly, from Christmas tree shops. That store. And they were a present from my mom. She and her and dad, several years ago, were browsing Christmas tree shops, and they came somewhere around Thanksgiving, and they came across those tiny Dutch ovens. And, well, yeah, they thought of me. And so they had to get them for me. And besides, I don't think they paid more than $10 for the pair. So, and then of course there's a question: what do you use a tiny cast iron pot like this for? Well, number one, of course, it's things like a butter melter. But number two, consider you could make individual tiny little cupcakes for kids, for instance, or apple crisps, or even pies, maybe individual tiny pot pies. I mean, tiny cast iron pans definitely do have their use. Hey, nice. We're starting to get some, we are definitely starting to get some browning here. So I think we are not doing too badly. Maybe about another minute or so, and we'll be able to move on to step two. Boy, and this isn't taking too long either. And I'm really kind of taking my time, especially with all this talking here. Roadside assistance guide, you can use them for sugar. You can put sugar in them for your coffee or whatever, your tea. Well, yes, there is that too. Definitely. I mean, they are, of course, good for stovetop storage. Would be great for salt and pepper. Oh, I can smell the potatoes already. I love potatoes. Oh, I noticed that as well. You can tell pretty much when it's done when you can easily cut this with the with your spatula. That means I think these things are indeed starting to get done because they're definitely cooked and not raw. Yeah, let me show you again. See this one here. It cuts that easily. So I'd say these things are ready, and we are ready for the next step, which means we throw in onions and garlic, minced, of course. Well, chopped anyway. I probably didn't do a very good job mincing them. Also, a lot of my cooking, I use very basic spices. I mean, while I enjoy using all kinds of spices in my cooking, I've actually been criticized, no, not by you, Anne, but by some people, for having very bare and basic spices in my food. But that's largely because I like to taste the food. I love the taste of potatoes, for instance. Rather than potatoes that are drowned in, like, say, barbecue sauce or Cajun seasoning. And yes, I love Cajun seasoning. But for a typical stir fry like this, I'm going with very bare and um, minimum spices. In fact, now that I've said that, just throw in a little bit of salt, which will also help to soften this, and pepper. I had to have a hand cranked pepper grinder. And this part won't take long. Whoops, this part won't take long either because I don't want to burn the garlic. But anyway, we're doing pretty nicely here. There we go. Yeah, I'm betting I could probably even eat these potatoes as it is right now. So, basic sourcing rules. Half hour late. What did I miss? Well, hi, handsome stone. Basically, you missed me talking, talking about how great cast iron is. Like I do every week. Actually, as you can see, I'm kind of showing off the Lodge cast iron wok and droning on and on about the differences between using a Lodge thick and heavy wok versus a thin Asian wok. But I do believe we are at this point now for the main course. And I hope this can opener works well. I realized only tonight that I did not bring my can opener when I moved, so I had to run out and get a new one. Ugh. And at least initially, this one doesn't seem to be working too badly. thank goodness. Also means grab this. And yeah, here's the fun part about canned corned beef. You know, the way it looks like dog food. I mean, there's no way around it. Plop. Yeah. Yes, I am using canned corned beef. Why not use fresh corned beef? Well, the main reason, unfortunately, is the cost. We're nowhere near St. Patrick's Day, and when I looked at Price Chopper, for instance, I saw a typical 3 to 4 pound package of corned beef was running on the order of about $20. Whereas even though prices have gone up and this can of corned beef costs $2.99, well, there you go, $2.99 versus $20. So, and besides, this really isn't. It's not bad either. I mean, it does taste good, especially since I'm mixing it in with fresh ingredients. So, this really is not so bad. Besides, now that it's gotten past the point where it no longer looks like dog food, what I really just have to do is, well, keep on heating it up and mix it in. And then we get to bring out a couple of other things. We're actually pretty far in. This is a fast stir fry, and this is not going to take much longer already. The other ingredients, the spinach and the mushrooms, are going to cook very fast. The real hard part was cooking the potatoes, and that sure did not last long, thanks to this, again, really hot wok on a gas stove. Yeah, I'm probably going to be, I shouldn't say bragging, but I'm probably going to be going on and on about this gas stove for months. And I hope you folks don't get tired of that. But yeah, I am very quickly falling in love with this gas stove. So I'm quite happy with how this has turned out already. And meanwhile, what we have here, roadside assistance guy. I worked at a recycling center back around 2007, 2008, and somebody brought into the recycle center. We had a place where people could donate stuff, and I have a can opener that was from back in the. Oh man, that sounds like really something. Yeah, because most store-bought can openers are terrible. I will agree there. If anybody actually manages to luck out and find a nice durable can opener that will easily and regularly open your cans with very little effort, that is quite frankly a prize. And yeah, I was not very happy tonight when I found out that I had not packed my can opener, because that was one of them. Not only was it a made in USA can opener, it worked great. So yeah, and again, a can opener is the type of essential thing you never think about until you don't have one. Still, this is not taking long at all. Is this a kind of hash? Yes, that's exactly what we're doing, Eric T. In fact, I mean, besides the fact that this is canned corned beef hash, I'm mixing in, as you can see, I'm mixing in potatoes along with minced onions and garlic. But from here, we're going to deviate a little bit and throw in a couple of other ingredients. And I do believe we may already be at that point. That's how fast this is going. That's how fast this takes. And then, namely, next ingredient, spinach, which I found out pretty much that the taste of spinach blends very, very nicely in with this corned beef. And yet again, I know I've said this before, but I highly recommend giving this a try. And pardon me, please, I dropped a couple of leaves. 5-second rule. Yeah. There we go. I also learned, after I learned how to cook, that yeah, I'm never ever going to buy canned spinach pretty much ever again unless it's an absolute emergency. Um, quite frankly, besides the way it's tends to stain the food, as I found out, and it turns everything pretty much the same shade of dark green. Um, it's so much easier to use fresh spinach because, as you can see, this stuff cooks very fast. You can practically see it wilting right before your eyes. Yeah, I'd say within the next minute or so, this spinach is going to be all wilted and soft, and that's how easy this is. So yes, I will say this is a hash dish. In fact, I have the link to this recipe on the description of this YouTube live video, and it's quite simply, I have it on my website, and I just call it spinach hash, which is a step up from the original recipe that I mentioned back in my old days. The rather disgusting combination of ramen and ground beef and tons of cheddar cheese. There is going to be cheese at the end of this, though, but it's not. It's a little different from what you think. However, look, as you can see, that did not take long at all. And besides, the look of the fresh spinach, I think, even the wilted spinach, I think it goes very well with this dish. Not just, well, the taste is what's most important, but I think it actually makes it look more pleasing as well. So far, so good. But yeah, as I said, yes, you can make this. You can make this stir fry in any kind of a cast iron pan. But I personally have found this wok to be about the best there is if you want to do a stir fry. And yes, I can definitely highly recommend it, especially if you manage to come across it on sale. I mean, I understand, of course, large cast iron can be expensive if you buy it right from the factory, yet you can often come across these things at places like, say, TJ Maxx or Marshalls or what's it called now, Home Goods, and they have it at much lower prices there. And of course, down south, those of you who are lucky enough to live in the area of, like, say, Tennessee, know that Lodge Cast Iron has their own outlet stores out there where they have the seconds shelf or room where they sell these at at great deep discounts. Yeah, this is not taking long at all, is it? And then finally, mushrooms. I love mushrooms. Hope that isn't too many. No, I don't think so. Oh yeah, I'm definitely. I've been a hobbit my whole life. Those of you who read Lord of the Rings know that hobbits have a passion for mushrooms. They go crazy for them, and I don't blame them at all. Mushrooms are just so good. I've only recently started enjoying raw mushrooms. Well, some mushrooms anyway. But cooked or marinated mushrooms, oh yeah, I can't get enough of them. But anyway, it's really as simple as that at this point. Once the mushrooms are soft and cooked, we will be done and we will be ready to serve. That's how easy the stir fry is. This is the type of thing you could make on a weeknight if you come home from work and your family wants something like this. They want something good. They don't want Walmart pot pies, for instance, and burritos. God, I just realized how many years it's been since I've had those Walmart pot pies and burritos. Okay, little piece there. But yes, indeed, this is definitely this is definitely a hash. This is the meal, and I know I've said this before. Anne, who is here on this live, This is the meal I cooked for her that New Year's Day when, let's just say, as you know, I had a very bad / very good breakup with someone. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. But largely because of that, that happened on New Year's Eve. Then I woke up the next morning feeling good, which shows that it was a bad breakup, with a burning urge to cook. And I just had to go and cook this very dish. And this is what I made for Anne that New Year's morning. Yeah, that was a very pleasant memory for me. I'm hoping it was for her as well. You could make a pot pie with that. Yes, you could. I mean, there's no reason why not to. I mean, it's nice, soft, and very thick and, well, mushy, filling. If you put this in a pie, I'm sure you could go very far with it. Heck, you could even put this in a sandwich if you wanted. But look at this. We are practically done already. Boy, and it's only been 40 minutes. That sure didn't take long. Fortunately, I actually do have something very simple and fast coming up after this. But there we go. As I said, this is a spinach hash, and I love the taste of this stuff. Again, I do believe the spinach, let me turn the burner off for the moment. I do believe the spinach and the hash and the potatoes blend together very well. So, first, let me dig out a dish here. Because here's the other thing about corned beef hash. Now, with corned beef hash, most places like restaurants and the like, when they serve corned beef hash, they traditionally put a fried egg on top. And yes, I've done that with this, but here's what it looks like so far. Got a little messy. However, give me 1 second. And forgot to get this out in advance, unfortunately, but just do it now. What I like to serve on top of this particular dish, crumbled feta cheese. Yeah, or even sour cream, or even Greek yogurt. They've got something of a similar taste, and I really find that the sour cheese taste goes very well with this dish. How the heck am I supposed to open this up? Ugh. Damn it! My bad. I should have opened this cheese up before the live, so now I've got to struggle with this, and currently, my scissors are nowhere to be seen, unfortunately. 1 second again. It's always something, isn't it? All right. Well, we'll just have to get a knife then. Boning knife, to be precise. Careful, I don't want to stab myself or pierce myself. Oh, yeah. The bitter sour milk taste of feta cheese. Hard to beat. Especially when you get to crumble it. There we go. Now, just crumble this right over it. Wash my hands. And there we are. It really does not look appetizing, but then again, I guess you could say that about regular corned beef as well. However, the taste of this, the mixture of the feta cheese and the spinach and the corned beef, Oh yeah, I am really proud of how this turned out. Not gonna eat this whole bowl, I promise. Mm. Mm-hmm. And that's really how it was. You could have used scissors to open the cheese up. Yes, I can't find my scissors at the moment. I'm still unpacking, unfortunately. So, mm. Mine hates the indoors. Oh yeah, the cats might have helped open it. Yeah, you never know. Only I. And speaking of which, Trouble happens to be walking by too. What a surprise! Now, let me scoop out the rest of this into another bowl for storage. Yeah, that's the word, storage, meaning that it'll probably be like the next couple of meals or so, breakfast and maybe lunch tomorrow, because it's certainly not going to last long. I can promise you that. There we go. Anyway, while we're at it, can't forget this scrapings either. There we go. And that is the Lodge cast iron wok, which again, I'm very happy to have been able to use on my gas stove. I'm really there. I have so many pieces, yes, that I still need to try out on this gas stove, but it's like this wok was one of the first things I had to use to cook on it. And so far, I am not regretting it. Not a bit. Now, while this thing's still pretty hot at this point, I think I should try scraping it out or at least cleaning it out a little bit. So let's do this. Let's throw in a little bit of the salt, just a little bit. And a paper towel. And start scrubbing it out. Because again, that is one of the many ways to easily clean cast iron. Because once we do this, I will start heating this wok up again and we will get into part 2 of this. I've got a very simple dish as well that we can then you also use this wok for. Anyway, this of course just simply absorbs high trouble. This simply absorbs most of the, well, there's very little grease in this here, isn't there? Oh, excuse me 1 second, folks. Hi, Trouble. Trouble, over here. Come here, Trouble. Okay. All right, enough with the kitty. All right, back to business here. Anyways, I was saying that's one of the fastest and easiest ways to clean out a. Oh, sure. Now he starts crawling up my leg. One of the fastest and easiest ways to clean out a cast iron pan. You just simply scrub it with some salt. It's not 100% clean, but it's clean enough for me to continue with the next step. Although I've got to get a little something to get this extra salt out of the wok. And we'll do that. As fast as I can. Oh, I know. Let's see if this works. The can from the corned beef hash. Yeah, I get it. There we go. More or less. Now I'll just throw this out or put it in recycling. There we go. Now, having done that, I'm about to turn the heat back up. Poof. so that we can start heating this wok up. This time, let's see if we can get it to smoke, and then we're going to do something very simple for part 2 of this. Okay, and meanwhile, I've missed some comments here. I've no doubt about that as well. Great when the pan's still hot. Yes, exactly. Can trick. Well, yeah, well, it's just because the can was here, that's all, and I was gonna be throwing out the can anyway. R. Hughes, I probably tried too many things, but I've never learned my lesson, and the next best thing is right around the corner. Yeah, I've heard that one before myself. Never know about the salt trick. Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, like everything else, there are YouTube videos about it. As I said, this is not exactly sparkling clean, and frankly, if you want your dishes to be sparkling clean, you will probably not be satisfied with this. All I really did was do this to just get the excess grit and extra grease and the like out of the pan, so that I'll be able to cook another dish with this. So. And the sour cream idea, oh yeah, yeah, definitely. I can only say again, I really like this recipe. It's easy, it's fast, it's really not that expensive. Depending on how much whether you want to get corned beef or maybe even just use like say ground beef or something rather than corned beef. Um, yeah, Will Love. I'm too anxious to try. Oh yeah, William Hurt. I just moved out and I cannot seem to find my knife sharpening stones. Yes, exactly. That's the situation I'm in right now. I've been slowly unpacking, but it's difficult because I live by myself and I work a full-time job. So even though it's been a couple of weeks, I still have things that I'm going to be unpacking for a while yet. And besides, there are other things that have had to take priority, unfortunately. And that's how it goes. So. Well, roadside assistance guy. Well, I'm glad you like listening. I mean, I'm just really talking really to fill up dead air because I don't like that. CIC, what side dishes do you make to go with this hash? Well, as I mentioned, I mean, corned beef hash is typically considered to be a breakfast. So maybe serving it with a side of scrambled eggs or even home fries, for instance. That might be one way to go with it. Although savory vegetables like the spinach, as I said, since they mix in so well with it, that might be something to consider as well. Anyway, as we are waiting for this thing to start smoking, I'm going to try to get that far. Anne says, I usually do that which works nice. We'll have to try the salt. Yes. Can't believe you use table salt on it, not kosher salt, which would take seasoning off. Well, maybe. I mean, yeah, I know the difference between kosher salt and regular table salt is, in fact, the larger grains, which of course that's the reason why we use kosher salt because it's got a different texture to it. And hot water and a chainmail works to get it very clean. Yes, in fact, if I use the chainmail scrubber on this, it will be much cleaner than it is right now. I mean, as I said before, this is hardly spotless. And as I said, if you want your dishes to be clean, you prefer clean dishes, you would probably not be satisfied with this. I just did this quite literally as quick and dirty. So. Okay, and going on here, yeah, I probably tried too many things. Oh no, we said that part already. So anyway, I just bought small brewer's bags to squeeze dry my hash browns, and it works great. Well, that sounds interesting. And yeah, it's little hacks like that is one reason why I love seeing being on the internet. You learn little things like that. But anyway, while I'm waiting for this to heat up again, I'm gonna get out the next thing we're doing tonight. And would you believe that would be peanuts? I've done this before, and yet I think it's been a couple of years already. And I'm just simply gonna be some nice and simple wok fried peanuts. And the nice thing is that they use very little oil as well. So, yeah, I got some raw peanuts again at that Asian market, which really were not that expensive these days because the cost of everything has gone up recently, unfortunately. So it was like about $5 for this bag of 2 pounds of raw peanuts. Whereas if you were to buy dry roasted peanuts at pretty much any store, you would probably pay almost $5 just for a single pound. So instead of doing it that way, I'm going to fry these up myself. And that's how easy it is. So, Papa Dan, get in line behind behind the wife, the daughters, etc. I'll leave. Yeah, okay. I don't think I will repeat that. But yeah, nonetheless, this was another trick I learned, and that again was wok roasted peanuts. The trick is that when this thing gets all good and hot, and I feel like it's getting close at this point, but we're not quite at that point yet. Quite literally, we just put the peanuts into the wok, and we roast them on the dry wok for a few minutes, even before we add some oil. Because not only does that cut down on the oil, people talk about not using too much oil when they cook, but also that helps really to get some nice browning and maybe yeah, on the peanuts as well. So as a result, these peanuts are not going to look like the kind that you get in the jar at the store. So typically, in fact, a lot of people do this method and then from there go on to grind the peanuts down and make homemade peanut butter, which I can't do right now because at this moment I don't have a food processor, unfortunately. I left my immersion blender in Jamie's care, and food processors and blenders are something I have not had much luck with. Over the past 10 years or so, I think I've gotten maybe 4 or 5 blenders, all of which I've pretty much burned out after only a couple of uses. So, did you ever roast chestnuts? I never have. Uh, Once I did, yes, and it actually was not that hard. The hard part, of course, is with the chestnuts is that they burn easily, and you have to keep a very close eye on them before so that they don't burn. Peanuts are easier to roast in that there's a lot of leeway here before these things actually burn. So buy a Vitamix, you'll never burn it out. Warranted 7 years. Well, that's certainly something to consider. I'm hearing a little bit of a snap, crackle, and pop, from the residue that's left on this pan. So I think we're probably getting close to that point once again. Oh, yeah. And I do believe I'm actually starting to see just a wee bit of smoke coming from the pan this time. So I think we are actually getting to that point, which means now. Oh, the other thing I need to do, always one more thing. I have to wipe off the wok shovel as well, or get another one. But I think I'll conserve and I'll just wipe off the wok shovel. One less thing to wash tonight. And from there, besides, I'm the one who's going to be eating it anyway. So if I'm violating any health codes, it's going to be me who suffers from it. So, all right. And with that, you get to, you open up these peanuts and pour about 2 cups worth into the wok. You got to do this carefully because I don't want these things to spill all over the place. Here we go. That's maybe about 1 pound of peanuts, half the bag. And the trick with dry roasting, especially in a wok, is that you have to keep these things constantly moving. Kind of like when you're doing a roux for gumbo, in that you can't let these things settle down too long because once they start getting hot, you don't want them to burn. Which means for about the next 5 or 6 minutes or so, all I'm really going to be doing is shoveling these peanuts around. And then after that point, I will mix in just a little bit of oil. And in theory, these peanuts should be done in less than 10 minutes. That's how easy it is. So, well, also that means you get to watch something a little more than just an empty cast iron pan. You get to watch me throwing these peanuts around. And I'll spare making nut jokes. Thank you, because yeah, even though I've got a dirty mind, I don't feel like telling those kind of jokes tonight. But nonetheless, as I said, when I tried wok fried peanuts or wok roasted peanuts, yeah, this is another one of those things that really beats the heck out of the store. Although I realized again, I made one mistake. As I mentioned already, I do not have peanut oil yet. That's one thing I have to get. So I'm going to have to dig out the corn oil in a few minutes and give that a try. I think that should go well with these peanuts, in that it should not give it too much of a flavor. But anyway, what I really want to do, of course, is again dry out the peanuts and get them all nice and smoking hot, which will happen in just a few minutes or so. But yeah, I mean, this really is not that hard. It takes a little bit of patience, but as I said, these things should be ready to within just a few minutes or so. So this is even the type of thing, again, you could even make, as I say, a snack for your kids, for instance, or even teach them how to do it. Because, the thing with kids is they are much more likely to eat something if they make it themselves. And yes, I'll say again, yes, you can do this with a skillet or a Dutch oven, just like doing popcorn. You can do popcorn in a Dutch oven. You can do popcorn in a wok, but yeah, here's the other thing. Because of the shape of the wok, you do not have to shake the wok. The popcorn will pop just fine in a wok, and I've done that many times before. Which maybe I should have considered doing that as well, except that I don't have any unpopped popcorn in my kitchen at the moment. As I said, I've just moved in. There are so many things that I still need to get. And since I can't just, get everything all at once, it's just going to have to come in bit by bit. Fresh, warm peanuts. Yes, indeed. Yeah, definitely. I am looking forward to this. And I'm looking forward if anybody is available to share them with. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. Is it a hassle to get a market or stores, or to get to a market or store so you can shop nearby, or can you shop nearby? Well, here in the Binghamton area, it's a little bit different, as I found out. I did not realize until I moved out here how special it was to live in Massachusetts, especially around the Boston area, because of all the imports coming into Boston. That meant there were a lot of big specialty markets, things like huge Asian markets or Indian markets or Spanish markets, scattered all along throughout the Boston and the suburbs areas. There was a place in Quincy, Massachusetts called Camman Shops. There was and I took Anne there once as well, just on Route 20. There was this huge Indian market, for instance, where they specialize, with imported Middle Eastern goods. And boy, I really enjoyed that place too. They don't seem to have quite as many of those out here. I have already been looking, and I have found some specialty shops, although they are smaller. I found a couple of specialty Asian shops, for instance, and thank goodness for that, because I was able to replenish my jasmine rice there. I would rather get my rice from an Asian shop than getting it at Wally World, because I want the authentic stuff. I've also seen, but have not yet gone in to a couple of African markets, which is good, where I can get things like oxtail there, for instance, and also goat meat. Boy, I just realized how long it's been since I've had goat meat. Goat meat, for the record, how can you describe it? No, it does not taste like chicken. It has almost something like a sweet, savory flavor. I don't know how else to compare it to other kinds of meat. But goat is actually quite an interesting meat to try one of these, if you have not yet done so. By the way, I noticed these peanuts are starting to give off their own oil at this point. That's the other reason why we start roasting these peanuts in a dry wok. And it looks like they are indeed starting to smoke. So we are starting to get to that right point here. which is good because that's what we want. We want these peanuts to be dry, dehydrated. And I do believe they're just starting to give off an odor, which means we're getting close to the point again which we want them to be. That means they are getting close to actually being cooked and not raw. Again, being in a very hot cast iron pan also helps. Cynthia Wesley, Papa, years ago, St. Francis Medical Center in Monroe, there was a man rode a bicycle and every day selling brown bags of fresh roasted peanuts. Oh yeah. And of course, if you go to any ballpark, baseball park, you'll still see them selling those things there for something like $10 a bag, I think. Yeah. Souvenir prices. What fun. I've been to Fenway Park in Boston, although it's been years. I do believe we are just about at that point. I think I'm starting to see some of these peanuts definitely take on a color, and I do not want them to burn. So that means I think I better stop and very quickly run and grab the corn oil. I'll just be a few seconds. And yes, I would rather use peanut oil on these peanuts, but at this time I don't have it. Next time I go shopping this weekend, I'm definitely going to have to pick some up. Yeah, these things are definitely starting to smoke, so we are absolutely at the right point. And here's the other thing about this method. You don't need to use a lot of oil. I'm not going to drown it. All we need is maybe that much. A few tablespoons. And now we just simply spread it throughout. And I'm hoping you can hear that these things are hissing and sizzling. So it's definitely hot, which is how it's supposed to be. That means in just a couple of minutes, I might have even used too much oil, in fact, or maybe because it's corn oil rather than peanut oil. In that case, I think I'd actually better have to get something, I think, and maybe even drain these peanuts. Well, that's not too hard. Nonetheless, it's really as easy as that. And in fact, now that we're at this point, time to start adding some salt. And mix all that together. And here's the part where you can add your own flavorings too. I'm not sure how well this method would work for honey roasted peanuts, but I'll bet it would work. However, there is one other thing that I have used on these peanuts that I've found has worked very well. Yeah, these things are definitely getting close to being done. And give me a second. How about smoked paprika? Those of you who have had smoked paprika, you know what it's like. And yeah, it can be addictive. Because smoked paprika is what they use to get the barbecue flavor in barbecue chips. They don't use barbecue sauce, they actually use smoked paprika. But nonetheless, I do believe we are already at that point. These things are definitely taking on a darker color. And since, as I said, I think I might have used too much corn oil, I had better get a strainer. No, they're not soaking in it, but there's definitely a fair amount of oil still here in the pan. So I better turn off the heat and get one last thing. And that would be my strainer. Well, it doesn't seem to be dripping oil, which is good. Although, then again, I can see that we are actually getting a little bit. So I think I'm doing good by actually straining this out. There we go. Come on, let's get the rest of these in so they don't burn. There we go. I've got the heat turned off, but this wok is so hot that it's still smoking. And yeah, we're definitely getting a few drops of oil out of there. So, but nonetheless, there we are. Wok roasted or fried peanuts. And even though they're hot, maybe I should get a spoon or something and try just one or two. Very carefully, because yeah, they're hot. There we go. Oops, sorry, my hand was in the way. And oh yeah, they're done. Got that nice roasted peanut flavor to them. So anyway, as I said, this was a 5-pound bag of raw peanut. No, I'm sorry, a 2-pound bag of raw peanuts that cost $5. The price of everything has gone up, so I do believe. Whoops, damn it! These 2 pounds of peanuts, raw peanuts, cost less than what you would get for a pound of roasted peanuts at Wally World. So, of course, you want to mix in your own seasonings, as much salt as you like or other flavorings. And there we go. So, once again, this would be the Lodge cast iron wok. So, I am really, really enjoying this wok. Yes, I am. Oh, yeah, this is definitely hot. It's heated up all the way to the edge, not just the bottom. So, yeah, so we are definitely doing really good here. I'd say lay them out on a newspaper, but who has those anymore? I actually that's not a bad idea, and I agree. Failing that, I could always just put it on a baking sheet, which I will probably do, in fact. So, once again, if you'll hold tight for a moment. I only have a big half sheet baking sheet, which is kind of big, and I don't really feel like washing this off. I'll just let these things cool, and I think they will be fine. So, but anyway, there we go. This is a look here. As I said, using this Lodge thick cast iron wok, which again is probably what I've done tonight is probably pretty much the opposite of what they would do in Asia. In Asia, they pick up the wok and they toss the food around, which I've barely ever done. And that's a skill I'm going to need to learn. Now that I've got a gas stove, I think I'll be able to learn it. That'll be fun. Boy, am I going to cause a mess. But otherwise, I really have enjoyed this Lodge cast iron wok. As I said, I've used it at least once a week for the last 11 going on 12 years, and I see no reason to ever stop using it because it is so convenient. It does such a great job, and it's so much fun to use. So, yes, and yeah, I'm really loving this gas stove indeed. But even with a as I said, even with an electric stove, which I was using up until only the last couple of weeks or so, I got a lot of use out of this wok because it does a great job of making up for the crappy burners you get on an electric stove. Yes, and this again would probably be one of those things you might even want to try with your nieces. So as you can see, that did not take long, and you can only see what happens. But anyway, there we go. So Yeah, then this is only one this is only one pan. There are so many more that I still have to actually try out on this gas stove, which is why I think I'm going to try to commit myself next Wednesday on Cast Iron Wednesday is pizza night, which means we get to see how well this gas stove makes pizza. That should be interesting. Otherwise, well, again, I'm very happy, as I said, with how this has all turned out because not only do I have these peanuts, of course, I've got to put this down here somewhere. Let me put this over here. I have this other dish which I have to finish before I go to bed, and that again is the spinach hash, which, as I said, is another dish that I'm very proud of. It's a nice and very simple stir fry. Mm, mm. Oh yeah, it's tasty. It's not expensive, and it is definitely something that I really, really encourage you to try because it's fun and it's delicious. At least I think so. I love the combination. So those are just a couple of things that I've made in the large cast iron wok. And of course, we've got all the traditional things that you can make in a wok. Like fried rice, for instance, or chicken stir fries, or pork stir fries, or veggie stir fries. Stir fries. I mean, you could do a different stir fry every day for the rest of your life, and probably will enjoy almost every one of them. And that again is another reason for having a wok, which, as I said before, you can do all of this in a cast iron skillet, and there's nothing wrong with that at all because skillets do great stir fries. They do great many other things. I just happen to think that a cast iron wok for stir fries in particular is about the best you can do. And as such, if you enjoy doing a stir fry because they're easy and cheap, I would highly, highly recommend giving this a try, or any wok that you think would appeal to you. Obviously, no, don't get a non-stick wok, and no, I'm not just saying that either just because of well, I'm kind of biased, but really, if you go to any Asian market and watch them make make their market, any Asian restaurant, and watch them making their stir fry stuff on their blasting propane stoves, they never ever use non-stick woks. They always use carbon steel, and that's where we get into another argument: carbon steel versus cast iron. If you want to do it the traditional way, great. I mean, that's the traditional way. I'm doing it a little different, I admit that. It's what I've taught myself, and it's been fun. So I still have to learn the traditional way, but nonetheless, that's my statement, and I guess I will stick to it. I enjoy using a wok. I think this is one of those essential items that everybody should have in their kitchen, along with a cast iron skillet, a Dutch oven, a stock pot for boiling water, and a wok for stir fries. So, and one last time as well, if you get a wok, get a wok shovel. This is mandatory. This is not optional. Once you have used a wok shovel in a wok, you will agree, and I can promise you that. So there we go. And that's another look at cast iron for tonight. So I know my channel, as much as I enjoy, identifying cast iron and cleaning cast iron and looking at and showing off my collection of vintage cast iron, I'm actually happy with the way that I think I've done a lot more cooking on my channel than a lot of other cast iron channels. And I'm not saying that to diss them in any way. It's what I enjoy. For me, it's always been mostly about the cooking, but I fell in love with cast iron, so it's mostly about the cooking in cast iron, and that's just the way I am. And I can only hope this entertains you. I guess it does because you've been showing up every week, and once again, I very much appreciate that. Honey Badger, roasting peanuts looks like a great way to add a layer of seasoning to a skillet. Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah, as you can see, I used a little bit too much oil, in fact. So once this is all cleaned off, this is definitely going to have a little bit of extra seasoning to it. So I'd say we are doing pretty good in that respect as well. Because the absolute best way to season a cast iron pan is to use it. Oh, I remember Woolworths. Boy, does that date me. But yeah, the best way is simply to use it, regardless of whatever method you use to season your pan. If you don't use your pan, then what's the point? So, and that's at least that's what I say. Okay, and I do believe we are getting into that time, so I can only thank everybody once again, really for showing up. As I know I say this every time, but I mean it every time. These live videos are so much fun, and I really enjoy doing them. And you folks are the reason why these live videos, in particular, are so much fun. I mean, I've done a lot of pre-recorded videos, and I really need to do more of those pre-recorded videos. But the live videos are fun largely because of you. So, and I can only thank everybody very much for showing up. Hello, Cast Iron Fanatic, and Joe Brown, and William Hurt, and Ann tonight, and Clico, Mike M, Papa Dan, Turner Fowler, Val the Black Cat's Rules. I know I've said the Romper Room reference before, but it seems like I'm doing this every time. And Christine Borgatti. Yeah, going to the Asian store tomorrow. You will enjoy it. I mean, I love going to Asian markets, not only for this, but also you can always find something weird there. And that's part of the fun of it. So I can only thank everybody again, once again, for showing up. And I hope you've enjoyed this tonight. Next week, as I said, will be pizza night. And we'll see what happens then. I get to see how a gas stove makes pizza in cast iron. And having said that, I better go and finish off this hash. Have a good night, everybody. And thank you so much once again. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for being here. And we'll see you next Wednesday.